Welcome to the Discount Property Investor Podcast, where we show you how to buy real estate at a discount so you can create wealth over time and income today. Our mission is to share what we have learned from the experience of others and help you make more money investing like a pro. We want to teach you how to create wealth by investing in real estate, the Discount Property Investor way. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, Discount Property Investors, welcome back. This is episode number 11, Planning for Your Freedom. I'm your host, Mike Slane, with co-host David Dodge and Bill Maret joining us today. Bill is going to tell us a little bit about planning. It's one of his areas of expertise. Wanted to say, please feel free to check us out online at discountpropertyinvestor.com, or you can visit the free wholesalecourse.com to learn a little bit more about wholesaling. Bill, thanks for joining us. You want to go ahead and get started with your story?
Pleasure, especially since I had to walk all the way down from the other side of the building here. It's quite an effort, but no, I appreciate you guys having me in. I'm excited to what we're doing as a company. I'm very excited to hear what these guys are putting together for our national coaching and training podcasts and mentoring, etc. So we have a lot of good skills and a lot of smart people that can help people get started from beginning all the way through to becoming a very successful business. So looking forward to helping the process and help some of the folks around the country. So I'll do a quick intro on myself, a little bit about my background. We'll talk about what I call the freedom date and freedom number, how I've used planning and mentoring, coaching, and my mentors to get started in real estate and actually to plan myself right out of my own job, which I did a few years ago. So because of that plan, I'm able to sit here in this room today because I choose to, not because I have to. So anyway, my name is Bill Maret. I am the elder statesman of the company. So I've been in corporate America most of my career. My background is in sales and marketing, mainly startup companies through IPO. I grew up in the 80s, came through college in the 80s, got a marketing business degree from Southwest Missouri State, now known as Missouri Southern University, I believe. We could change the name. Anyway,
got SEMO?
Southwest Missouri State?
Southwest Missouri State.
That's Missouri State.
Is that Missouri State?
That's my
Okay.
alma mater too, man.
Well, I should
All
know.
right, alumni brothers.
So I am definitely a
Okay.
marketing. Marketing was the easiest college degree I could find, so I got a major in marketing, business management. Always been more of an entrepreneurial spirit, but I got caught into the corporate world right out of college. The problem was then they were paying so much darn money as a sales guy when computers were just coming out. If you could walk and talk, you could get a computer job. So I got a computer software sales job right out of college, basically. So in the mid-'80s, I started selling software, made a bunch of money. Had a lot of fun for 20 some odd years in corporate America. As I said, did some startup companies, was able to help take companies from startup to public companies. Unfortunately, was never able to cash in myself. I was able to make some other folks quite wealthy. You know who you are if you're watching in the video. Anyway, just kidding. But I actually learned a lot. So I learned a lot about corporate planning, taking a concept, an idea, believing in it, and executing. And I've had my mentors help me believe and execute, and we'd like to do the same in real estate. So 25-year corporate guy. About 8 years ago, I started dabbling in real estate. So always enjoyed buying and selling my own properties. Didn't know what the heck I was doing. Got some of the video courses shipped at midnight, like all my guys here. And so I can do this. Heck, if this guy on the radio can do it, I can do it too. So made a few mistakes, but anyway, I kind of followed the rich dad, poor dad concept, which was I knew I was doing everything wrong. I was definitely corporate Joe. Total debt, going nowhere, trying to keep up with the Joneses, and the Joneses were winning. So I had a lot of expenses. The bank owned a lot of property. I didn't. So everything I owned was really I was trading my time for things. So I realized I was backwards. So I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad back in what was that? Probably around the year 2000, 2002. Decided to get into real estate investing, which is a better use of money versus getting car loans. So switched my whole life around and got kind of lucky. I actually downsized right before the 2008 crash, which was a good move. So that started to fund my real estate career.
It's good timing.
So I did some part-time stuff, sold my house, got rid of some bad debt, lake houses and jet skis and things I didn't need, and then really started focusing on building my portfolio. My corporate background being in business development and planning, I learned a lot about having a solid plan that you believe in, that you can execute on, generally a 1, 3, or 5 year plan. So I use those same concepts, and I was able to build a plan for a 3-year escape. It was actually a 5-year plan, and I was able to replace a 6-figure salary plus bonuses and commissions in just real estate passive income and active income, which I'll talk about here shortly. So the idea is the plan and execution can work. If it works for me, it can work for anyone. And there's different strategies based on where you are in life. If you're a young guy just getting started, you have no money, we have a plan for you. If you're a corporate guy, hate your job, there's a way out. If you're a senior person, there's a way out.
Yeah, Bill's pretty modest, but I mean, he just mentioned something that's really huge. He just said he replaced his corporate income. What was it you said in
6 figures?
The 6-figure income in how long though?
3 years.
In 3 years. So again, I mean, it's a pretty awesome story. I mean, he's very humble about it, but it's pretty impressive stuff. So
it is motivational. I mean, I'm not a motivational speaker, but I do get excited about topics I believe in and I know that are going to help people. So as I transitioned into real estate for full time, I quit my job about 3 years ago. That was a happy day. So I joined the local real estate group here in St. Louis. We happen to have a great group. It's called the Southside Investment Club, which is one of the largest in the country. I think you guys have probably highlighted that already. But it's known as SSIC, and the guy that started that is a smart young guy named Nick Bauer. So I also work with Nick as a part-time endeavor to help people just with what we're talking about. So I help people with their planning, their business execution, and as a coach and mentor for his Inner Circle coaching group, which is a local St. Louis really great group. So we have like 140 people in the group. So that's an awesome way for us to help people. We also provide them properties. And I focus on landlord deals and how to become a landlord and how to get passive income so you can retire like me. So I'm kind of a feature for the local group. And essentially it's a good way to get started. So the passive income, the planning, we'll talk about how I use that and how you guys can use that to get your careers supercharged. That's kind of where I came from. Sorry for the long intro, but
no,
it's
great.
It's relevant to what we're talking about.
Yeah, thanks
Absolutely.
for sharing.
So
one thing I do want to mention real quick is you said that you had read the Rich Dad Poor Dad book back in early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
And would you say that book really changed the way you thought about working for money versus having money work for you?
Absolutely. And it's so obvious. However, most of the people I know, including most of my relatives and friends, are still trapped in the JOB, just above broke. So seriously, no matter how much you make, you'll find a way to spend it. That's
right.
how it works.
So the more you make, the more you spend.
The more you make, the more you spend.
Yep.
You got the kids are young, so you're building the bigger house. You're getting the boat. They need something to do in the summer. They got to go to private schools. It goes on and on, right?
You get a bonus. You take a vacation.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yep.
the whole thing is it's not about things. It's about the freedom to enjoy your family, friends, and your passions.
Yep.
So it was a really eye opener for me. And I was definitely poor dad in the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, 100%. So by getting rid of some of the needless debt and reducing my expenses,
And
which
putting
is
your
part
money
A,
to work.
part B then is making sure you're maximizing that money. So whether you're using your own money or other people's money, which is even better. So part of what we teach and train on is how to do funding through private or hard money. Banks are great too. I do some private money and hard money loans to the people in the group because I saw a need for gap funding. So I call it the Freedom Loan. So I help people get started locally with the Freedom Loan. So there's a lot of good ideas that you can execute. There's just a lot of ways to make money in real estate. So that's part of what we're going to talk about today. For those of you who are just getting started, being a wholesaler is a great way to get started. I know people that have gotten very wealthy, including some folks in the room that have made good money just starting as a wholesaler. We have people that have quit their corporate jobs, young guys, old guys, and you have to have a passion and the right personality to be a wholesaler. So that's one of the things I'll stress is if you really aren't a people person, you can do some wholesale marketing, but don't be the guy that maybe gets in front of grandma to close the deal. Bring in your more credible person that can really warm up to the audience. So know yourself. That's part of the strategy is knowing what part of real estate fits your personality, fits your lifestyle, fits your time that you have available, and fits your skill set. And we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. So Bill, with that being said, how do you go about planning for your freedom? What steps do you need to take? And
Good segue. That means I'm running behind, guys. They want me to keep moving
not
here.
at all. I just want our viewers and our listeners to know that planning is very important, and you have to be able to plan in order to reach your goals.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you recommend to somebody that's wanting to get into real estate, or even somebody that's in real estate that doesn't really have a good plan? How would they implement? How would they start? What steps should they take?
That's a good segue. So it is really all about two things: planning and execution. What I've found in the world, most people either plan but don't do anything, but they got a very detailed plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I was probably one of those guys at some point getting through corporate world. Hey guys, look at my great plan. Put it in the desk till next year. That doesn't help you. If you have a plan you can put into action or execution, then you got something. And I use a methodology that I was taught by my one of my mentors, early software guy, actually one of my best friends. But there's a methodology for planning called GOSPA, but not gospel, although there's nothing wrong with the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
But the GOSPA stands for goals, objectives, strategies, priorities, and activities. So think of it as a waterfall effect. You want to start with your vision in mind, of course, and then you want to have some tangible numbers in terms of what are your objectives. If it's not measurable, you can't. If you can't measure it, you can't measure success.
Mm-hmm.
So your objectives should be measurable, 3 to 5, not 100. And then what I think is really fun is the strategy section, which is the S of GOSPA.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk about some real estate strategies here. I got a few slides to help people on the
Sure.
video. But what's cool is with your strategies, you can start off as a wholesaler, move into a landlord role. You can start as a bank or a funder if you got a bunch of money but no time. Then you can make a nice return on your money that way.
Mm-hmm.
You can start as a flipper if you're a creative type or you're handy and you want to fix stuff. I enjoyed passive income, and I'm known as Mr. Landlord, not technically, because Mr. Landlord is actually a very popular name for a national program, but locally,
Somebody's probably trademarked
Yeah,
that.
that's
but
locally I'm known as the passive income guy. How's that?
You're our local Mr.
So
Landlord.
my story about freedom really revolves around
Jeffrey Taylor, if you're listening,
Jeffrey.
that is
Actually,
that's all you, Mr. Landlord.
We love you, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
I've seen your
Absolutely.
presentation.
Absolutely. Been on the cruises.
Exactly.
All that. Yeah.
What's exciting really is though the strategy for how to get to your goals. If your goals, $5,000 a month, $2,000 a month, $20,000 a month, or we have very big goals here.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, we use the GOSPA methodology on steroids here at this
Mm-hmm.
company, so it will work. So the whole idea is getting the plan and essentially get to a freedom number and freedom date. And that's,
So can you recap really quick again, what does GOSPA stand for? It's
Yeah.
GOSPA.
I'll just jump right So-
And it stands for what again?
So it stands for, and I just put up the slide for those on the radio. So the GOSPA process is really a waterfall effect. It stands for G is for goals. That's your why. It's not like I want to make $1 million. The G in the goals is I really want to have time for my family. I want to travel. You have to ask yourself why 3 or 4 times, and then you'll get to your why.
That's a really good point. Mike mentioned that in an earlier episode
Mm-hmm.
about asking yourself why several times, because your first why may be real broad, and then you ask it again, and then it narrows it down, and by the third or fourth or even fifth time, it usually gets down to something really specific, like providing for your family or
Well,
being happy.
I'll give you my real gospel. When I was stressed out about getting fired from my job at IBM at the time in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Some of you older guys remember 2008, the big crash of the market. Well, I was ending my software career. I was selling software at IBM. Pretty grueling situation, and then the stock market went down 45%. At least my portfolio went down 45%. So I was really scrambling, getting ready to either be terminated or move on to another company. So I was really nervous about how am I going to get to my freedom date and my freedom number. I didn't have a plan at that time, and that's what makes you really nervous. So once I sat down on paper, did the plan, I was able to see, wait a minute, there is a way out of this thing. So the goal for me was, hey, I want to make. It wasn't so much I want to make $10,000 or $20,000 a month or get to $1 million. When I asked myself why 3 or 4 times, my real why was I didn't want to go bankrupt or go broke like some folks in my family had done.
Right.
So I was just kind of fearful, unreasonably fearful about going broke. So that was really what has always driven me is fear of failure.
Mm-hmm.
But that's very powerful motivation. So that got my goal set. I set my objectives, which is how am I going to replace my $10,000 a month salary and my commission bonuses. And so I went ahead and set my goals, which were to quit my job in a certain amount of time, and then also get to the state that I wouldn't have to keep the job that I didn't like within 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I started buying and selling stuff at a more rapid pace. I also joined the local group, as I said earlier. I hooked up with the Southside group. I joined the Inner Circle, which was a local mentoring and coaching group.
So that group is our local RIA here in St. Louis.
And they're awesome. So there's I actually became a coach and mentor for that group. When Nick Bauer and the guys saw what I had done for my planning for myself, they said that would be a great tool or feature for the inner circle. So we actually do some of the planning for the new investors. So anyway, goals is G, objectives is O, and objectives are I want to make $10,000 a month. I need to make $600 per door per month. I need 10 homes times 6. I need to make $6,000 a month by having 10 rentals that'll each make $500 or $600 income. It might also be I need to get my debt down to less than $3,000. So pick 3 to 5 tangible numbers that are critical to your success. I need to get $50,000 saved. For those of you who have jobs, might be a good idea to get 6 months savings started before you quit your job.
Yeah.
And you got to be proactive. Don't wait till it's too late. So by learning about what these guys can teach you and what others can teach you in real estate, if you're proactive, you can be an independent, successful millionaire, quite literally, using real estate. By the way, 97%, I believe I've seen the quote, of all millionaires have heavy real estate investment holdings.
It's true.
So there's a reason for that. So anyway, objectives, strategy we're going to spend time on is the S. And then plans and priorities and activities. Now this is not your daily 50 things to do list. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is everything that relates to how you're going to get to your objectives for the year, break down into what are you going to do for the quarter and for the month. It's really about what are the key activities or priorities you have to physically do or take action on in the next 30 days or at least by the quarter. Another word for that in our company is rocks. So we each have 3 to 5 rocks, and by the way, you guys are behind on your rocks this quarter. We each have 3 to 5 rocks that we absolutely have to get done. So you got to get your rocks in order based on where you're at in your cycle. Maybe your rocks are just strictly go to a real estate meeting and see what the hell's going on. Maybe it's think about how much money I need to get a budget. So get some basic information. Whatever your rocks are, get them on paper. Those are your priorities for the quarter or activities for the quarter.
The rocks are just shorter term priorities.
Absolutely. But they got to be real and they've got to relate to your objectives. So ask yourself this, how much time do you waste a day by doing things that don't relate to your objectives and your goals?
Absolutely.
If you're doing those, why are you doing them? Don't do them. You know, take the calls and do things that are going to relate to your objectives and strategies, which is the waterfall effect of the gospel plan. So that kind of gets into the belief system, not to get too motivational. But if you have a solid plan that you can put into bite-sized pieces, you start with a plan. You're not really going to believe the plan unless you see a little bit of action success, if you got me. So let's say the simple process is you want to meet with an accountant, you want to meet with an expert that can show you how to get started. Wow, I did that, it worked. Now I've got a lead or whatever. You start with the small successes, and all of a sudden, guess what? Your belief grows, your actions grow, your courage grows. Pretty soon, you're like, holy cow, I'm actually doing the plan. And that's how I did it for myself. It's how I did it for corporate startups. It went from $0 to $1 billion. It starts with a small plan, a whiteboard, and some vision, and some ability, some confidence, and some mentors and coaches to help you make it happen. Same thing with real estate. So start with that, and you'll build your confidence. You'll have a plan that makes sense, and then you get into your strategies. And this is why you need a mentor or coach in the real estate investing business. What I didn't realize, which was just still blows my mind, there's so many ways to make money in real estate today. It's crazy. So this doesn't cover everything, but I have a little cheat sheet in front of me on the slide. So really, your focus and your income streams, as I'll call them, there's at least 9 ways, probably more like 20 ways to make money in real estate. You can start with just doing what I call bird dog work, helping wholesalers that are in your area find deals. That could be driving a car, it could be putting up signs, and quite frankly, there's nothing wrong with that. We've all done it. And by the way, some of the more successful and wealthy wholesalers starting out as one-man teams doing that, putting up signs, taking phone calls, getting leads, either closing the deals themselves or getting a more experienced wholesaler to go with you to go see grandma and close those deals. You still make the money.
And on this topic, you don't necessarily have to bird dog just for wholesalers. You could bird dog for the rehabber themselves that are also out looking to buy properties. You could even bird dog for a real estate agent looking to pick up a listing. If you know somebody that's looking to sell their home, and you know an agent that is in the business of listing properties, I'm sure they'd be happy to compensates you for making that connection. So bird dogging isn't so narrow. That alone has got 3, 4, 5 different ways in which you can make money in real estate.
So it's all about, if you're motivated, I guarantee you can make money. You can learn the skill, whether it's the bird dog or wholesaling. And again, you guys know the basics, but wholesaling is nothing more than finding properties that are below market, buy low, sell high. Essentially, we're almost like commodity traders, right? Think of the stock market. You buy low, you sell high the same day. In the case of the good wholesalers, essentially just flip the contract, right? Which is what we try to do. You don't need a lot of money for that. If you got a good deal, you can flip that contract and make money all day long. Now, some people like myself, wholesaling is a lot of work. It takes a lot of ambition. You can do it. But for me, I would rather spend my time and effort. Now, I had a little cash to start with, and I had a little bit of equity, so I could go right into being a landlord or starting as a rehabber. So for me, my gospel was, or my original strategy was, get to know the local wholesalers. Guess who my partners are? All wholesalers, right? So as a landlord and as a rehabber, the wholesalers are my best friends. I start becoming repeat clients. I start getting some discounts, hopefully. And that's why you work with the old school wholesale companies, the ugly house guys, and all those folks. However, if you want to get to be the landlord and be the rehabber, you got to get the deal. So you get them from the wholesalers, or you find them direct. The closer you get to grandma, the better the price, right? So you can be a rehabber, which is the fix and flip, like the TV shows. I can assure you, it's not quite as easy as the TV shows. But I've done 40 or 50 flips. That's not my primary passion, but I do 3 or 4 of those a year, at least when I started, to take place of my commissions. Remember we talked about my GASPA?
Of course.
So I used my rentals to pay my bills, and I needed about $10,000 a month in income to pay my basic bills. I don't know, budget never seems to go below that with the college kids and so forth. And the other thing was my bonuses and commissions. I used the flips for those. Also helps to do a few flips to pay those taxes at the end of the year. So have a strategy that makes sense for the way you live, and then either do some rehabs, do some landlords. Essentially, my program was pretty simple. I was going to buy 2 or 3 rentals per year, make about $900 to $1,000 each per rental, cash purchases. So I was buying as low as possible. I learned that from my local RIA that I didn't have to buy $80,000 rentals, which I was doing when I first sold my big house. So I can make $800-900 a month net profit on a $30,000 house. I didn't need to tie up $80,000 to make $1,000. Does that make sense?
Oh,
so
yeah.
essentially, I had 3 high-price rentals. Once I did my plan, I sold my 3 expensive ones and bought 10 cheap ones.
That makes sense to people here in the Midwest. That may sound a little crazy if you're on the coast.
Just going to mention that.
But, we don't want to clog up the market here.
But with that being
there's no
said,
deals
though,
in St. Louis, fellas.
Yeah, he meant 300,000.
Yeah, but with that being said, if you are on a coast
Yeah.
or in a market that you aren't able to buy a home for 30, 40,000, that will pay have tenants paying $800-900, maybe even $1,000 a month. We are in the wholesale business, and we would be more than happy to help you find those deals. So check us out at discountpropertyinvestor.com. There's
Absolutely.
tons of deals on there.
Put us
where
on
you can invest in our market and
Yeah.
get the same returns that we're making.
Put us on your plan. We can help you get deals in our market. And we do have a lot of out-of-town national buyers in our markets, so we know. So anyway, again, there's lots of ways to make money. You can flip. You can be the landlord, which I think is best. For me, passive money is some of the easiest money I've ever made. You can graduate into commercial properties, which would be 4 family or more. For example, on our plan, we want to get to 50 to 100 unit apartment complexes. A lot of people like to get into the trailer parks, believe it or not. That's also a very high profit business. So there's a lot of ways to get into multiple units without buying single family homes. You can get into retail, of course, if you have that passion. Getting your license, there's pros and cons. We won't cover that today. Property management, again, there is some property management issues or at least requirements to be a landlord. So for me, property management, I do a little bit myself, but I outsource a lot of the stuff I don't want to do. I like to close my own tenant. I like to make sure I choose the right tenant, even though I may have other people screen those tenants. And I also may have my own handyman because I don't like the markups that I get from the property management folks. So there's different ways to use property management. Depends on your time and your interest in that area. And then finally, private money funding on joint ventures, and I do a little bit of that. So as you build wealth or you have access to wealth, maybe someone in your family has a lot of money just sitting around. That's another way to get into deals where you can be the funding person and then someone else provides the expertise to fix and flip.
Or the other way around. You
Yeah.
may have the expertise to fix and flip,
Yeah.
and you find somebody else that has money, you partner with them, and depending on how you guys work out a split, everybody wins.
Absolutely. So think about what is your personality type. Quite frankly, everybody watches the TV shows and the flip shows, and if you go to the weekend seminars, nothing against the national seminars, but some of those folks really simplify the wholesale process. And frankly, it's like any sales professional. If you're going to be a good wholesaler / I'm going to buy and convince someone to sell the house to you, you got to be credible. You have to have a good way of communicating. You have to be fearless. And also you have to have a good buyer's list when you get properties. So that's not for everybody, and it's not to say that you can't do it, but understand what's your passion, what's your personality type, how much time do you have to devote to it, how much cash. It's hard to be a full-time wholesaler without investing some money in marketing and quite a bit of time and attention, just like any other business, right, guys? So think about what your state in life is, your age, your income needs, and then there's definitely ways we can help you. Your local real estate or your business planning folks can help you get into the right part of real estate that's going to meet your goals. Obviously, the wholesale and the bird dog referrals and all the mentoring and all the things that you need to do to get started are going to be in training modules, either from your local folks or what folks like us will be providing in terms of podcasts. So that's kind of my story. We talked about where I started. The golden, we call it the golden handcuffs. You know, once you get into corporate with golden handcuffs and a bunch of kids, it's really hard to quit. So that's why it's even more important to have a plan to get you out of that rat race. And you know, obviously, there's a happy story on my gospel plan, or I wouldn't be here talking about it. But I did have a very serious plan. Like I said, in 2008, I was sitting in a pretty bad spot in terms of my mind. I did not have good job security. I just lost, as I said, almost half my money in the stock market. Was working 60 hours a week to pay off stuff, right? I was only a part-time investor at that time. I didn't really have an exit strategy. I didn't have anywhere near enough passive income to survive. So guess what? My savings would have been gone in about 5 to 8 years by my calculations, unless I took some serious actions. So motivation was compelling event. Do something or risk losing all your assets in your house. And so I formed an LLC, and I had a meeting with my power team at the time. I kind of laugh because my power team in 2008 was not so powerful. But it was nothing against my team, but it was my nephew was my contractor. Had a couple agents helping me. Had a cousin who was a rehabber, and I had a few other folks.
But what's important is you had a team, even though they weren't, you know, looking back, the power team that you now have sitting next to you, thanks to me and Mike here.
That's right.
But you know, you at least had a team. You had put together a plan, and you were executing that plan. One thing I do want to mention too, Bill, is you said that your income would have only lasted you, you know, 5 to 8 years roughly, you know, give or take. And you know, I think the average person probably doesn't have between 1 and 2 years of income.
Saved up
to last them. So you were actually sitting, you know, pretty decent. However, you were worried about it. You were stressed about that.
In my brain, it was all about. It's all about, you know. It's all about your own emotions or your own state of mind. And again, that was part of my gospel. Was I was really concerned about having to deal with bankruptcy issues and so forth. So because of that driving issue, I took some pretty radical actions. My family, a lot of my friends thought I was crazy, but I actually quit a very, very high-paying job, probably a dream job. I won't mention the company, but it was a high-flying technology company. People would have killed to have the job that I retired from or quit from 3 years ago. But I'm so much happier now. I'm working. Probably, my wife says, I thought we were retired. I said, no, we're just switching to things we like to do. So I'm probably working more hours, but it's more fun. It doesn't feel like
work.
Like, this is not work for me. This is fun. I'm talking about things that'll help people. The serious thing is, have your plan. I knew that I had to get my costs down. I knew I had to get my average cost per house much lower from what I was learning from my local real estate group. At the time I had my plan set in 2008, I actually had my team come into my corporate office. My boss was out of town that week. We actually used the boardroom, and I went through this plan that I just spoke of, and it worked. So, you know, I got my team motivated so they could see I was serious. So I was able to get my wholesalers excited. Hey, this guy's going to be a real client, so I was getting better deals. At the time, I hadn't done any flips, so I got better flip deals. Started doing some flips to take the place of my my commissions, and I used the rentals to get to $10,000 a month. As I said earlier, about 10 rentals for me on the low end, paid with cash, generated about $10,000 gross income per month. I actually got to 15 rentals, quite frankly. So I was able to execute, get the plan going. What's important is your source of funding too. I'm also pretty good with money planning. So I was able to take a few assets, such as downsizing my house, use that money and some lines of credit and bank money to fund my entire business. And since then, I haven't looked back. My metrics were pretty good, as I talked about. So my plan was written in end of 2000, well, middle of 2009. The crash happened at the end of 2008. So it took me 6 months to come over the shell shocking.
Sure.
But I built a plan in 2009, started executing in 2010, and my exit strategy was to be out of there by 2015, end of 2014. So the results were, I actually quit my job in December of 2013, so going on 3 years.
Yeah.
Haven't looked back, haven't had to touch savings, so that's good. And I was able to get my initial plan. I was going to get 10 rentals and making $800 a month. I actually got to 17 rentals, averaging $875 gross a month. No mortgages, good tenants, no evictions. Those are all key metrics. Remember, metrics are important. These were my objectives I met. My average cost before my plan was around $70,000. Actually, it was more like $80,000. My original target plan was $70,000. Get this, when I started hooking up with wholesalers and learning what I could do, I got outside my comfort zone. I was buying full all-in homes at $38,000 with no bank loans. So that was a game changer for me. The average value, I was trying to pick up between $20,000 and $30,000 equity per house, which I did. So by picking up all those homes for cash, I picked up somewhere around $70K each, almost $1 million worth of equity, because I was buying low and then improving the equity by improving the property. So I was actually getting $13,000 a month income at one point, plus doing 3 flips a year. On my flips, remember metrics, guys, my metrics were $30,000 profit per flip. You can also do it by percentage of the cash invested, but have a number that you're shooting for. And I was able to average well over $30,000 profit per flip. Excuse me, in 2012 and 13, I got carried away. I did 6 flips in 2013. I would not recommend that.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
Because that was, I still stick to my rental money that pays the bills, and I got a great crew. I got a great network. I actually became a coach and mentor. Excuse me, in 2014, full-time investor at the same time. So I was all in. I would recommend you guys get a plan, start at whatever pace you're comfortable at. Build a little cushion that helps a little bit if you can. And essentially get started, because essentially, think about it, what do you got to lose, right? Didn't Donald Trump say that?
I'm sure.
In the election? I'm not getting into politics, folks, but what do you got to lose as it relates to changing your life? Action is going to be based on your belief system, a plan, and your team. So, what's funny, it boils down to 5 excuses. I'll call them excuses. So if you watch, so Bill, if everybody's doing it, like my brother says, well, why you did it, but it won't work for me. Why isn't everybody doing it? And I said, well, everybody I know is doing it.
Yeah.
You're just hanging with the wrong crowd.
You just changed your whole.
So it's usually, well, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I don't have the knowledge, I can't swing a hammer, which I definitely can't do any of that. But it's really they're too fearful. What if something goes wrong? What if it doesn't work? What if? And then how do I get started? It's too overwhelming, right? There's really those 5 excuses. So if you look at do nothing, you know what's going to happen, right? Do nothing, you're not going to change your situation. But I can tell you this, with real estate, it's real, it's tangible. There's millions of us making millions of dollars, and it starts with a local plan and a local team that you can build with our help or with other people's help in your local coaching and real estate groups to eliminate those excuses. And it's really, for those of you who can see the screen, a lot of it has to do with some of the old, like, who do you hang out with, right? So if you hang out with what I'll call watchers, people that watch but never do anything, maybe they just criticize, the naysayers are the negative Nellies, or do you hang out with doers? Like, I hang out with doers. You guys are doers. Everybody's focused on positive, making results and having fun. And we don't worry about what might go wrong. One of our partners is, we call him Ray the Rhino. And Ray the Rhino, if you haven't seen his podcast, maybe watch that one on some motivation. But Ray doesn't let anything slow him down. He just charges ahead. So great example. And it also is great to have people that have your common interests. So start going to the local groups, and you guys see how that works. But essentially, Steve Harvey said it best: people you choose to associate with determine a lot about where you're going in life. And you guys know that's true from high school, college. I was hanging around with maybe the wrong kids in high school. I won't get back into that.
Me and you both, man.
But real estate was able to get me out of that
That's
crazy
right.
world.
That's right.
So anyway, guys, that's it. I just want to give you guys a little bit of motivation. And I believe that you guys out there in Podland, take the first step. We're here to help you in terms of national training, and then your local groups can help you as well. Thanks for listening. I'll close with a good quote from Tony Robbins. I'm not sure Tony actually coined this, but he's taking credit for it. If you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always gotten. And take that to heart, folks. Best of luck. We hope you guys succeed and get started today.
Yeah.
Thanks
Awesome.
for having
Yeah,
us.
true.
Yeah,
So
Bill,
true.
thanks for sharing all that. That was great. I know I've gotten a lot out of the GASPA and setting goals and putting together a strategic plan to reach those goals. One of my favorite quotes is a goal without a plan is a dream.
Yeah.
And it's so true. It's so simple and it's so true. But not having a solid plan, for goals that you set is just dreaming. You have to plan. So I would say start, set some goals, but set goals that are achievable. And then you got to put together that plan, folks. You have to have a good plan. And don't just write it down on a piece of paper and throw it in a drawer. Write it on your mirror in your bathroom, or post it up in your home, in your bedroom, or
Put it on your phone.
put it on your phone. My goal is on my phone, and I show everybody. They think I'm obnoxious and annoying, probably, but I make my goal clear to the world, and I see it every day. And, my cousin, he writes his goals in his bathroom with a Sharpie on his mirror. So every morning when he's brushing his teeth, it's funny when I go to his house because I'm always giving him a hard time, but it's so true. I go over there and I see these goals written on his mirror, and it's like he looks at them twice a day when he's in the bathroom in the morning brushing his teeth, and same thing on his way to bed. And just putting those in front of you often is a great way to constantly keep reminding you of what you want to achieve, and then again, having a plan, to achieve that. So
I'll close with one more. So my boss told me this about 10 years ago. I just thought of this, and it's so true. So we talk about plans. There's only two types of people. You either have the plan or you're on somebody else's plan.
so true. It is.
That's
It's so
very
true.
true.
So it's much more enjoyable when you're writing the plan.
It's much more enjoyable when you're writing the plan. You're in control. But like you said, Bill,
You
you
one of the
either are
two.
the one writing it, or you're working towards somebody else's
You're a
to
box
make
on,
them rich
you're
and
a box on someone, and there's nothing wrong.
achieve their goals.
It's not a bad thing to get started, but again, if you have the entrepreneurial spirit and you have the vision, I would say go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what you guys want to do. So I think our overall action item for everyone this week would be to come up with a plan. I mean, again, get started, but make sure you have direction in where you're headed. So have a plan, have where you want to go in mind. To get started in wholesaling, we'd encourage you guys to go visit the freewholesalecourse.com. I've got a lot of great content on there, pretty much everything you need to know to get started in wholesaling. If you're interested in looking for properties, some discount properties we mentioned we have here in St. Louis, visit discountpropertyinvestor.com. And next week we're actually going to have our other business partner, Ray. He's going to go in depth with
Rhino Ray.
Rhino Ray, that's right, he's coming up.
Well, who knows? One of these days, they might coax me back to do a little more detail on the plan.
He'll be
right.
back. So we've hit on a ton of quotes this one. We're going to end with one more. Failing to plan is planning to fail. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to help us reach a wider audience. We would also appreciate it if you left us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Thanks in advance for your support. And remember, you make your money when you buy and get paid when you sell. Now let's go build some wealth.